Recently, you may have come across some alarming reports that there are going to be food shortages in 2024. And in this video, I want to discuss how we can prepare for such an impending disaster. Hi, this is Everyday Prepper and welcome to the channel. You might have noticed a hint of sarcasm in my introduction. And that's because I'm getting a little bit tired of these kind of headlines. Headlines about food shortages especially. They happen every year, it's usually around Christmas time, just to poop all over our festivities and make us dread the coming year. Now, I've got plenty of theories as to why they might want to do that, but I do find it funny that we've just recently had loads of reports out about how the UK is going to be entering into a recession next year. Of course, they want us to go out and panic buy, they want us to buy stuff. And headlines like this will do nothing really but make people panic buy. But I decided to look into this a little bit more detail to see if this is something we should really be prepping for as preppers. First of all, in my opinion, the key thing to do here is not panic and rush out and start panic buying. If you're prepping how you should be, or if you are just getting started prepping, then you're going to be gradually stocking up your food supplies and water supplies. And that's fine. You know, if you lived your life by newspaper headlines, you'd be just panic buying all day, all year long, which is probably what they want. And we'd end up having a completely thriving economy forever. But life's just not like that. And the prospect of food shortages seems to come about by two main reasons. One is with the major conflicts around, we've got some possible supply chain issues with shipping in the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. And I did talk about that on an earlier video, about how I thought prices were likely to head in an upward direction, but like they do every year. The other thing that's possibly going to be affected is there's been a series of weather events that has affected global production of wheat. It just looks like it's bad timing. There's many countries that we rely on to provide wheat globally, and quite a lot of them have been hit by some pretty rubbish weather. So it's not going to happen every year. It just seems to have culminated into next year's supply. So I don't imagine it's going to be a long-term thing. There has also been some recent research into much longer term, 10 years and 50 years, by some experts and professors out of York University and a couple of other universities. Now, I looked into this and I read the complete paper that was published by, I believe, these professors from York University. And there's a variety of conclusions that I've come to, which I'm going to discuss in this video. Basically, the headline talked about what they deem to be civil unrest due to food shortages coming up in the next 10 years and 50 years. And they defined civil unrest by being 30,000 people or more being violently injured because of rioting or various events in 1 year around the UK. Now, I couldn't find any sources anywhere that cite that criteria being met at any point in the UK. So even during the big riots of 2022 and going back further than that, I couldn't find anything that suggested that we've had what would be defined as civil unrest. You know, 30,000 people or more being violently injured in 1 year. So that's a pretty big statement. What they've based it on is they've said that it's likely to be wheat, pasta and cereals and bread shortages that could cause that kind of scenario. So how do we prepare for this? The lazy reaction would be to think, oh, this is it, this is SHTF, this is it, this is what we're all preparing for, it's all going to hit the fan next year. But I wanted to dig into the research and just have a look at exactly what they're saying and why they're saying it. Now, the articles that have come out, certainly the Telegraph article and the Express followed up on the Telegraph article about food shortages in 2024 in the UK. And right at the end of the article, of course, you have to go through all the article and get all the panicky information out first. But right at the end, it does say that the UK will be able to deal with this. The UK food supply chain will be able to deal with this. So it's really a non-issue. And that particular headline, as far as I'm concerned, just means prices are going to go up. Well, you know, whether there was a food shortage or not, prices are going to go up anyway. It's just by how much. So how to prep for this? Well, you'd be prepping your foodstuffs. You'd have some tins, you'd have your pastas, you'd have water as backup, that kind of thing. What I have done, we make our own bread here using a bread maker that we plug into the solar and we cook it in the gas oven. And we consume around 1 loaf of homemade bread every 2 to 3 days, let's say every 2 days. So it's about 186 loaves per year. We get 2 loaves approximately out of each bag of 500 grams of flour. That's around 90 bags of flour per year, 90 bags of 500 grams. So what I've just done is I've bought 16 kilos of strong bread flour, which actually works out cheaper than what we had been buying. So I've saved a bit of money anyway. And it's really just something that it's all in one bag. I'm going to store it away. I've got some oxygen absorbers and we're going to put it in an airtight barrel where it will just sit. I'll probably just keep that there until the latter part of next year, see what happens, keep an eye on the prices and everything else, see if there's really a shortage of flour in the shops, and if it starts to be a problem then I'll use it. If it doesn't start to be a problem, I don't want to store it too long term, so I'll probably use it anyway and it'll be at this year's prices. So it's a win-win really. And a 16 kilo bag will make about 64 loaves, which is about a third of what I'd make in the year. I could probably buy some extra just to stock it up, but I don't believe it's going to be a major problem. The prices might go up a little bit, but I don't foresee a big problem. So they're saying that with a wheat shortage, bread shortage, with a wheat shortage, there's going to be that'll mean a pasta shortage eventually, but pasta does last a long time. So in the meantime, there'll be warehouses absolutely stacked to the hilt with pasta. So because it does store for quite a while, and all they'll do is they'll just put the prices up on it. So stocking up on pasta, I need to replenish some of my stock anyway. That's what I'll be doing, so that we get, again, this year's prices rather than next year's prices. And the reason I'm not getting too overly alarmed by all of this is because, again, we see these headlines every year, throughout the year, and especially towards the end of each year. If you just Google each year food shortages, 2022, 2021, and you'll just see tons of news articles every year where they just say the same thing all the time. It's the little line at the end that says the UK's food chain can deal with this disruption. So it's a non-issue. Now the funny thing is the other, if you put civil unrest into Google and just click the news tab, you'll see this article I'm talking about. And as I said, I'll put a link in the description for the paper. They basically say that the definition of 30,000 people, or the definition of civil unrest being 30,000 people in 1 year being violently injured due to civil unrest or protests or riots, they think will be caused by food shortages. 85% of these experts believe that this will happen, and the chances of that happening is a 1 in 20 chance in the next 10 years. That's 5%. The chances of it are very remote. If it was a 95% chance, then I might be a little bit more concerned. But a 5%, that's nothing. The funding of these people as well, although they declared no conflicts of interest, the funding was from the Net Zero Commission and the Climate Agenda Commission. So read into that what you will, but as far as I'm concerned, really it's a non-article, but it was worth reading. It's interesting to see what research these people are doing. They're getting paid to do it, but I don't believe it's going to impact us as preppers. It's certainly not the SHTF scenario that we're being led to believe it is. So I just wanted to get that out there and get that done and dusted because there's been a lot of talk about it, obviously going into next year. So I hope you found this reasonably informative and to put things into perspective. And if you do like this kind of information, please consider subscribing to get more content like this. And let me know what you think about the subject of catastrophic food shortages next year. Are you concerned about it? If so, why? I'd like to know. Or are you like me, just read into things a little bit deeper, get the actual facts and then come to your own conclusions. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching and stay prepared.